10 R&B soul legends whose deaths still haven't been explained.
Just promise me, darling.
10 names, 10 deaths. Not one of them, not a single one, fully, cleanly, honestly explained. Not to the families, not to the community, not to the historical record that owed them better. This is not a list about tragedy. Tragedy happens. This is a list about something more specific, something more deliberate. These are the R&B and soul legends whose deaths left questions, and the questions are still open. Number 10, Johnny Ace.
Just promise me, darling.
December 25, 1954, age 25, Houston, Texas. Let me tell you who this man was before I tell you how he died, because that is the part that makes everything else matter.
Always and forever.
His name was John Marshall Alexander Jr., born in Memphis in 1929 to a minister's family. By the time he was 23, he had released My Song on Duke Records, and it went to #1 on the R&B chart. He followed it with Cross My Heart, then The Clock, then Saving My Love for You, then Please Forgive Me, then Never Let Me Go.
Fire in my soul, forever.
6 records, 6 top 10 R&B hits in a row. Cashbox magazine named Johnny Ace the most programmed artist of 1954, the result of a national poll of disc jockeys across the country. Not since Nat King Cole had there been a voice quite like this. Smooth where everything else was rough. Intimate where the jukebox era demanded loudness. He was 25 years old and scheduled to headline New Year's Eve in Houston. His next record, Pledging My Love, was already cut and waiting. And then on Christmas Day, 1954, backstage at the City Auditorium in Houston, Johnny Ace was dead. The official story, the one that ran in the papers, was Russian roulette. A game backstage between sets, a single bullet, a pulled trigger. The hammer fell on the loaded chamber, but the eyewitnesses who were actually in that dressing room did not agree with that account. Big Mama Thornton was in that room. Curtis Tillman, the bass player, was in that room. Both said the same thing. Johnny Ace was not playing Russian roulette. He was waving the gun around the way he always did on the road, pointing it at people, pulling the trigger on what he believed was an empty chamber, getting a laugh from the way people flinched. It was his prank. He had done it out of hotel windows. He had done it from moving cars at road signs. That night in Houston, he pointed it at himself. That is an accident, not a deliberate game. An accident. And then there is the third version, the one that never made the papers. Don Roby owned Duke Records. He was known in the music business as a man who did not negotiate, nothing size. He dictated. He had a documented history of carrying a gun during contract discussions. And Johnny Ace, at the peak of his commercial power, had begun quietly asking questions about what he was owed. I want to be clear, there is no evidence that anyone other than Johnny Ace was responsible for what happened in that dressing room on Christmas night, 1954. I am not asserting otherwise. But here is what I will say. The investigation was not thorough. The witnesses disagreed. The coroner's verdict became the record, and the specific uncomfortable questions about money and contracts and who stood to benefit from the end of a renegotiation, those questions were never formally asked.
my days.
Johnny Ace's posthumous single Pledging My Love spent 10 weeks at number 1 on the R&B chart.
Hearts at your command, dear, to keep
Number 9, Otis Redding.
I'm sitting on the dock of the bay.
December 10th, 1967. Age 26, Lake Monona, Wisconsin. You know this song. If Try a Little Tenderness has ever been in your life, if it has ever come on and stopped a room, then you already know something about this man. Knowing the song and knowing what it cost to make it, and what was lost when the voice behind it went silent at 26 years old, those are two different kinds of knowing. Let me give you the second one. Otis Ray Redding Jr. was born in Dawson, Georgia in 1941. He was signed to Stax Records in Memphis in 1962. By 1965, he was headlining. By 1967, he had performed at the Monterey Pop Festival and accomplished what very few black artists had managed to do at that moment. He had crossed over, fully, not just commercially, culturally. The Rolling Stones cited him. Jimi Hendrix opened for him. He wrote Respect, the song Aretha Franklin made into an anthem. He co-wrote Sweet Soul Music for Arthur Conley. He made King and Queen with Carla Thomas and took it gold. He was 26 years old. He was, by any honest measurement, in the middle of becoming one of the most important voices in the history of American music. And then, in the final days of November and the first days of December 1967, Otis Redding recorded a song with his collaborator Steve Cropper. A song that was different from anything he had done before. He knew it. He said so. 3 days after he re-recorded the final version of that track, on December 10, 1967, his Beechcraft H-18 plane plunged into Lake Monona in Wisconsin as it approached the runway in Madison. 6 people died with him, 4 members of the Bar-Kays, the pilot, and 1 other. Ben Cauley, the trumpet player, was the only survivor. He woke just before impact to see his bandmate Phelan Jones look out the window and say, simply, "Oh no." Ben Cauley could not swim. He held onto a seat cushion and was pulled from the water. Now here is what you may not have carried with you. The National Transportation Safety Board investigated that crash. Their official determination of the probable cause, undetermined. The cause of the crash was never established. The pilot, Richard Fraser, had limited experience flying by instruments in poor weather. The weather over Madison that afternoon was poor, low ceiling, rain, fog, and a mechanic had noted 2 days earlier that the plane's battery was not producing full power. A faulty electrical system in instrument conditions is not a minor detail. But none of that, individually or together, fully explains what happened to that aircraft 3 miles from the runway. The investigation closed without a definitive answer. The song Otis Redding recorded in those final days was "Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay." It was released in January 1968, 5 weeks after he died. It became his first and only #1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100. It was also the first posthumous #1 single in the history of American popular music. He never heard it on the radio. If this name was in your house growing up, if someone in your family played this music, you already understand what I am saying. Real talk. Only 9% of you are subscribed. That hurts. We're spending hours digging through archives, fact-checking every detail, bringing these stories back to life. And if you're watching this far, you clearly care. So hit subscribe. It's free and takes 2 seconds. Now, to my subscribers, barely any of you have joined the membership. And honestly, that stings even more. You know the work we put in. You keep coming back. If these videos have ever made you feel something, if this music means something to you, join the membership. It's $1 coffee a month, and it's the only way we keep this going. Let's build this together. All right, back to it. Number 8, Little Willie John. May 26, 1968, age 30, Walla Walla, Washington. This name deserves to be spoken carefully because it is a name that most people have never heard. And the fact that most people have never heard it is one of the most accurate measurements of how the industry treated this man while he was alive and after he was gone. William Edward John was born in Cullendale, Arkansas in 1937. His family moved to Detroit when he was 4. By the time he was 18 years old, he was on the charts. All around the world, in 1955, Need Your Love So Bad, and then, in 1956, Fever. I need to be precise about this. The song Fever, the one Peggy Lee made famous, the one Madonna recorded decades later, the one that has appeared in film after television show after commercial, that song was Little Willie John's first. He recorded it in 1956. His version went to number 1 on the R&B chart and sold 1 million copies. Peggy Lee's cover came 2 years later and took the credit in the cultural memory. James Brown, the hardest working man in show business, the man who would later title an entire tribute album in Willie John's honor, opened for Little Willie John in 1956 and 1957. Not the other way around. Let that land. Stevie Wonder, at his Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony in 1996, named Jesse Belvin and Little Willie John as his all-time favorite artists. These are not the facts of a forgotten man. These are the facts of a great man who was failed by the industry, by the culture, by the record of what actually happened to him. By the early 1960s, the hits had slowed. His label had stopped investing. His personal problems, a violent temper, alcohol, gave the industry the excuse it needed to step back. In 1964, after a concert in Seattle, a fight broke out. A man was stabbed. Little Willie John was charged with manslaughter. He was convicted. In 1966, he was sent to the Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla. He was 28 years old. On May 26, 1968, 2 years into his sentence, he was dead. And here is where the official story fractures. The press was told he died of pneumonia. His death certificate says heart attack. Rolling Stone reported he had checked into the prison infirmary with pneumonia before being transferred to a maximum security isolation room, and it was there that he died. Some of the musicians who knew him believed he had been beaten. Others said he was simply neglected, that a sick man in a prison in 1968 was not given care that would have saved him. The medical records that would tell you which of these things actually happened, the records of his treatment in those final days, reportedly no longer exist. Number 7, Phyllis Hyman. June 30th, 1995, age 45, New York City. Before I tell you what the industry did to this woman, I need to tell you who she was, because that is the part that makes everything else impossible to accept. Phyllis Linda Hyman was born in Philadelphia in 1949. She stood 6 feet tall. She had a contralto voice that most singers spend entire careers trying to approximate. She appeared on Broadway in Sophisticated Ladies, the Duke Ellington Revue, and received a Tony Award nomination and a Theatre World Award. When she sang, it was not a performance, it was an event. Her first #1 R&B hit came in 1991 with Don't Wanna Change the World. She was 41 years old. She had waited that long. She had earned it that long. The album that produced it, The Prime of My Life, went gold. That is who Phyllis Hyman was. Now here is what happened between that talent and that moment. Arista Records signed her in 1977. Clive Davis believed she could be a mainstream pop star and began shaping her in that direction. It was not a match. The conflict between what Phyllis Hyman was, a jazz-inflected, classically trained, emotionally sovereign artist, and what Arista wanted her to become, grew until it broke. She and the label separated, but the contract she was bound by prevented her from recording for anyone else during that dispute. Years of her creative life were taken, not because she had stopped writing, not because she had stopped growing, because a piece of paper said she couldn't release what she made. When she finally reached Philadelphia International in 1986, the music she made was some of the finest of her career. But the damage had been done. Years of industry warfare, financial instability, the bipolar disorder she had managed, largely alone, the deaths of her mother and grandmother within a month of each other in 1993. The weight of loneliness she spoke about openly, on camera, on television, to anyone who would sit still long enough to hear it. On June 30th, 1995, hours before she was scheduled to perform at the Apollo Theater, Phyllis Hyman was found in her apartment. She left a note. It read, "I'm tired. I'm tired. Those of you that I love know who you are. May God bless you." She was 45 years old. The official explanation is suicide. I am not disputing that. I am saying something different. I am saying that the question of what killed Phyllis Hyman does not have a single word answer. And I will say clearly what most people won't. The music industry did not kill Phyllis Hyman alone, but it helped. It helped through years of contractual warfare, financial exploitation, and a systematic refusal to give a 6-foot black woman with an extraordinary voice the runway her talent demanded. Her final album was released 5 months after she died. It was called I Refuse to Be Lonely. Number 6. Tammi Terrell. March 16, 1970, age 24, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Her real name was Thomasina Winifred Montgomery. She was born in Philadelphia in 1945. She was singing professionally by the time she was 15. She won a full scholarship to the University of Pennsylvania before the music pulled her away from it. By 1965, Berry Gordy had signed her to Motown and renamed her. On a Motown review tour with the Temptations, she met David Ruffin, the lead voice of the group. And Ruffin fell into her life the way a weight falls, with impact and without warning. With Marvin Gaye and the songwriting partnership of Ashford and Simpson, she recorded Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing, and You're All I Need to Get By. These are not merely chart records. They are recordings that will outlive most of the music that will be made this year and every year ahead of it. On October 14, 1967, during a live performance at Hampden-Sydney College in Virginia, Tammi Terrell collapsed on stage. She fell into Marvin Gaye's arms mid-song. She was 22 years old. Doctors found a malignant tumor on the right side of her brain. She underwent surgery. She returned to the studio. She made more music. And then she underwent surgery again and again. 8 operations over 2.5 years. Now, before she collapsed, Tammi Terrell had been in a relationship with David Ruffin that was by every documented account violent and abusive. In 1967, she ended it after he struck her in the head with a motorcycle helmet. Rumors went further than that. Rumors that the physical abuse, the repeated blows to her head, had contributed to the tumor that was killing her. I want to be precise. Medical science does not support the claim that physical trauma causes a brain tumor. I am not asserting it. What I am asserting is something different, that a 22-year-old woman who had been violently abused, whose abusive relationship had been permitted to continue within the walls of the most powerful black music label in the country, developed a terminal brain tumor, and that the people who loved her, when they heard the diagnosis, thought immediately of what had been done to her. That is what the industry had allowed. That is the environment Motown had chosen not to address. And what did Motown do while she was dying? They continued releasing records under her name. They overdubbed Marvin Gaye's vocals onto her old recordings, tracks she had cut before she was too sick to stand, and presented them to the world as fresh collaborations. Because the commercial machine did not stop for a 24-year-old woman in a wheelchair, losing her vision, losing her hair, losing weight, until she reached 93 pounds. Tammi Terrell died on March 16, 1970. She was 24 years old, a month before her 25th birthday. At her funeral, her mother barred everyone from Motown from attending, with one exception. Marvin Gaye, the man who had held her as she fell, was allowed in. He delivered the eulogy while "You're All I Need to Get By" played behind him. Her mother blamed the label for failing to protect her daughter. She was right to. Number 5, Al Jackson Jr. October 1st, 1975. Age 39. Memphis, Tennessee. Otis Redding called him the greatest drummer in the world. Otis Redding, who understood great. Albert Jackson Jr. was born in Memphis in 1935. His father led a jazz dance band, and Al was playing on stage with that band at the age of 5. By his 20s, he was the most in-demand session drummer in Memphis. He became the founding drummer of Booker T and the MGs and the rhythmic foundation on which Stax Records built everything. Every record that came out of Stax during its peak years, Green Onions, Try a Little Tenderness, Sam and Dave, Eddie Floyd, Rufus Thomas, Wilson Pickett, you hear Al Jackson in the pocket. Precise, economical, immovable. There was not another human being on the planet who played the way he played. In the 1970s, he co-wrote and played on Al Green's records at High, Let's Stay Together, I'm Still in Love with You, the same standard in a different studio, and by 1975, the members of Booker T and the MGs were planning a reunion. 3 years dedicated to rebuilding what they had built together. Al Jackson was 39 years old and had everything in front of him. On September 30th, 1975, he stayed in Memphis to watch the Thrilla in Manila, the Ali Frazier fight, on the big screen at the Mid-South Coliseum. After the fight, he went home and found intruders in the house. He was reportedly told to get down on his knees. He was shot 5 times in the back. Now, his wife Barbara had shot him in the chest 3 months earlier, in July 1975, during a domestic dispute. He had declined to press charges. He was in the process of filing for divorce and planning to relocate to Atlanta. Around 3 in the morning, Barbara Jackson ran into the street calling for help. She told police that burglars had tied her up and shot her husband when he returned home. Police found nothing in the house out of place. His wallet and jewelry were still on him. The Memphis Police Director told the press openly, "What we know and what we can prove in court are 2 different things." The case has never been officially resolved. And then there is this. Al Jackson had been quietly planning to file a lawsuit against Stax Records over unpaid royalties, the same kind of lawsuit Isaac Hayes had filed in 1974. Stax Records closed its doors permanently less than a year after Al Jackson was murdered. Jim Dickinson, a Memphis producer who knew everyone involved, said it plainly. There were 2 of everything else, but only 1 drummer, only 1 Al Jackson. He was right. And whoever took him, took something the music has never recovered. Number 4, Jesse Belvin. February 6, 1960, age 27, Hope, Arkansas. Jesse Lorenzo Belvin was born in San Antonio, Texas in 1932. By 1953, he had Dream Girl at number 2 on the R&B charts. In 1954, he co-wrote Earth Angel. The Penguins recorded it, and it became one of the first R&B singles to cross over meaningfully onto the pop charts. His biggest solo hit was Goodnight My Love in 1956, the song Alan Freed chose as the closing theme for his radio show every single night. When asked in 1976 who his all-time favorite artist was, Stevie Wonder said Jesse Belvin, without hesitation. He named Jesse Belvin's album, Mr. Easy, as a record he would almost die to own. By 1959, Jesse Belvin had signed with RCA Records. They were building him to be the next Nat King Cole, the next Sam Cooke. His album, Mr. Easy, recorded with the Marty Paich Orchestra, was among the most critically admired R&B records of its era. He was 27 years old. He was on the edge of something that could have changed the shape of this music entirely. And then, February 6, 1960. Earlier in this list, I mentioned that more than half the names on it died under circumstances that were never officially resolved. I said to remember that. I said we would get to the entry that made the pattern impossible to dismiss. This is that entry. On February 6, 1960, Jesse Belvin performed in Little Rock, Arkansas, on the same bill as Jackie Wilson and Arthur Prysock, in front of what was documented as the first integrated concert audience in the history of Little Rock, the city that, just 2.5 years earlier, had become a global symbol of resistance to racial equality, that Little Rock. The show was stopped twice. White supremacists walked through the audience, shouting racial slurs, demanding that white teenagers leave. The atmosphere was described by those present as genuinely threatening. Jesse Belvin had received at least 6 documented death threats before that concert. He called his mother twice in the 3 days leading up to it, something he almost never did on the road. He told her he was frightened. After the performance, Jesse and his wife Joanne got into their Cadillac with their driver and headed for Fort Worth. Within 4 hours, the car swerved into oncoming traffic on the highway near Hope, Arkansas, and collided head-on with another vehicle. Jesse Belvin and the driver died at the scene. Joanne Belvin survived the crash, but was reportedly denied treatment at the hospital until payment could be secured. She died of her injuries. One of the first state troopers to reach the crash site stated that both rear tires on that Cadillac had been, in his words, obviously tampered with. Jackie Wilson's car, which had left Little Rock earlier, was also found to have had its tires slashed. That landed. I know it did. Some of you just went quiet. That is the right response. No official investigation into sabotage was ever conducted. No charges were ever filed. The case was never formally reopened. Jesse Belvin performed at the first integrated concert in Little Rock's history on the night of February 6, 1960. He had received death threats for agreeing to do it. The tires on his car were reportedly tampered with. And within 4 hours of leaving that stage, he and his wife and their driver were dead on a highway in Arkansas. Number 3, Jackie Wilson. January 21st, 1984, age 49, Mount Holly, New Jersey. There is a version of Jackie Wilson's story that begins with what everyone knows: the voice, the movement, Reet Petite, lonely teardrops. Your love keeps lifting me, higher and higher. The man who made audiences stop breathing, who moved like his body was made from rhythm, who could walk onto any stage, in any country, in any decade, and within 60 seconds hold every person in the room. That story is true, and it deserves to be said first, but that is not why he is on this list. On September 29, 1975, Jackie Wilson was performing at the Latin Casino in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, a Dick Clark production, during a medley of his hits. He collapsed on stage. He was 41 years old. Cardiac arrest. That is the medical explanation. But the question that his family, his doctors, and the people who watched the years that followed could not fully answer was a different one. A more uncomfortable one: how does a man of 41 reach a state of physical collapse during a performance? And what role did the years of industry exploitation, financial instability, and the relentless grind of a touring career with minimal protection play in arriving at that moment? Jackie Wilson did not die on September 29, 1975. He entered a coma and was then moved to a nursing home in New Jersey, where he remained for 8.5 years. Those 8.5 years, his royalties, the money owed him from decades of recordings, from millions of records sold, from songs that continued to generate income while he lay in a bed, were not flowing properly to his family. His finances were in disarray. The industry that had built portions of its own fortune on his voice was largely absent. Berry Gordy, who had written some of Jackie Wilson's earliest hits, who had known him personally since the beginning, who owed him at least a visit, did not come. Jackie Wilson died on January 21, 1984, of pneumonia complications following the cardiac arrest that had never fully resolved. He was 49 years old. His death certificate has a date. His family has a different one. September 29, 1975 is when Jackie Wilson died. Everything after that was the industry's final statement on what it believed his life was worth. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987, 3 years after he died. The speech was given in a building he never entered. Number 2, Sam Cooke. December 11, 1964, age 33, Los Angeles, California. Let me tell you who this was. Samuel Cooke, he added the E himself, a deliberate act of reinvention, was born in Clarksdale, Mississippi in 1931. He was the son of a Baptist minister. He learned to sing in the church. He joined the Soul Stirrers at 19 and became the most thrilling voice in gospel music. And then he crossed over, a decision that cost him in 1957, number 1 on the R&B chart for 6 weeks, number 1 on the pop chart for 3. He went on to place 29 singles in the top 40 of the Billboard Hot 100, 16 top 20 pop hits. He wrote his own songs. He owned his own publishing. He ran his own record label, SAR Records, through which he was actively signing and developing artists he believed in. No black artist in popular music had built that level of independent commercial infrastructure at that moment. No one. He was constructing exactly what the industry was designed to prevent. And he was, in those final months, completing A Change Is Gonna Come, a recording that has since been placed among the most significant pieces of American music ever made. On December 11, 1964, Sam Cooke was shot to death by Bertha Franklin, the manager of the Hacienda Motel in South Central Los Angeles. He was 33 years old. The official ruling, justifiable homicide. Franklin testified that Cooke had broken into her office apartment in a rage, wearing only a sports jacket and a single shoe, demanding to know where a woman named Elisa Boyer had gone, a woman he had checked in with earlier that night. Franklin said she shot him in self-defense after he attacked her. That is the official story. It has been on the record for 60 years. Here is what the official story has never resolved. Multiple witnesses who dined with Cooke and Boyer that evening said Boyer had been with him willingly, that she left the restaurant without protest. Boyer's account, in which she described being taken to the motel against her will, was called into question almost immediately. In 1979, 15 years after Sam Cooke died, Elisa Boyer was convicted of second-degree murder in an unrelated case. Sam Cooke's credit cards were never recovered. A money clip with $108 was found in his car. Witnesses at the restaurant that evening said he had been carrying a substantially larger sum. The singer Etta James viewed Sam Cooke's body before his funeral. She stated on the record that the injuries she saw were not consistent with what had been described. She was not someone who said things carelessly. The coroner's inquest lasted days. The witnesses gave conflicting accounts. The questions Sam Cooke's lawyer raised were deemed outside the scope of the proceedings. And, I want to be precise about this, Sam Cooke, in the months before his death, was making moves that made certain people in the music industry deeply uncomfortable. He was building, he was signing, he was establishing the kind of artist-owned infrastructure that, once replicated, would change the economic mathematics of the entire business. I am not asserting a conspiracy. I am asserting something more documented than that. The investigation was not thorough. The official account contains inconsistencies that were never examined. The questions his family raised were never answered. His biographer, speaking to NPR, was asked whether anyone in the Black community believes the official story of Sam Cooke's death. The response: there is not a single person within the community who does. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is a statement about trust and about what the record owes. Number 1, Donny Hathaway. Let me give you the person first, because the person is the point of everything that follows. Donny Hathaway was born in Chicago in 1945, raised in St. Louis by his grandmother, a professional gospel singer. He was singing in church at 3 years old, composing at 6. He won a full fine arts scholarship to Howard University in 1964, where he met a classmate named Roberta Flack. This Christmas, a song for you. Someday we'll all be free. He was a composer, a producer, a pianist, and a singer of such concentrated emotional truth that every person who has ever heard him has the experience of being personally addressed. Not performed for, addressed. His duets with Roberta Flack, Where Is the Love, The Closer I Get to You, produced some of the most quietly devastating recordings in the history of this music. He had been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, hospitalized multiple times, but in early 1979, Atlantic Records brought him back into the studio. The Closer I Get to You had received a Grammy nomination. A second album with Flack was being recorded. By every professional measure, Donny Hathaway was in the middle of a genuine resurgence. On January 13, 1979, he arrived at a recording session with producers Eric Mercury and James Mtume. During the session, he became severely distressed. He told the musicians that white people were trying to steal his music and his voice. The session was aborted. The musicians went home. Later that evening, Donny Hathaway was found dead on the pavement below the 15th floor window of his room at the Essex House Hotel in New York City. The coroner ruled suicide. The safety glass had been carefully removed from his window and placed on the bed. There was no note. The door was locked from the inside. Jesse Jackson, who delivered the eulogy, asked publicly, "Does a man get fully dressed for winter before jumping from a window?" Donny Hathaway's family has never accepted the ruling. They believe it was an accident. His lifelong habit of leaning from high windows to sing, combined with the severity of his mental state that night, produced a fall, not a decision. The investigation did not answer every question it was asked. He was 33 years old. This is his story, told properly. Finally.